Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Thriving with Rachael and Dr. Lou. I figured today if we could maybe touch on how to not feel like a burden to other people. Or maybe not so much how to not feel like a burden, but when I do, because that might be habitual, what do you do? How do you navigate that?
So I hear that from a lot of the people that I work with. They feel like they want to share and open up, but they don't because they're afraid of being that burden, right? And I think although that's the goal, to not feel like a burden, I think you're going to feel that. Because it's kind of a natural thing. It's kind of a human thing that you kind of feel somewhat guilty, somewhat bad that I'm dumping
I was just going to say
on
that.
you what I'm experiencing.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to evaluate who are you sharing that information with. And if you're choosing individuals who are supports, and maybe we need to define what a support is, but if we're choosing supports, then it really isn't a burden for them. Like many times the people who are supports are the people who actually care about us and want to help us. And if I care about you and want to help you, then I want to know what's going on because I see it, right? I'm a witness to it. I'm experiencing it with you in some ways. And if you're not going to share it with me, in some ways you're invalidating what I'm seeing in you. And sometimes, I'll ask, well, what's going on? And you seem stressed or overwhelmed. And you feel, no, I'm okay.
Not helping either one of us.
You're right. You hold it in. And then sometimes I do that, and then I feel like I had an opportunity.
Right. And then I feel more alone because I didn't share.
And then I feel bad coming to you after the fact and
really dumping.
Really
I'm
dumping.
So amped up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not so much about trying to control how somebody else takes what you say too. To your point,
Which is
why we pick the support, right? Because
right.
if it's somebody who you know is going to take that on and then not necessarily use it as ammo, but be very aware and open about this is really hard for me, might not be the person when you're already worried about being a burden. But if it's somebody who genuinely wants to just listen and is there to give you feedback or just to listen and give you a shoulder to, an ear to hear, that might be more of your person. Recognizing how they take it isn't something you can control.
I think another way that you can help not feel like a burden is to be clear with the person you're sharing with what it is you want from them.
Right.
Because I think oftentimes you will vent and you'll talk about whatever's going on, and you really don't want the other person to do anything. There probably isn't much that they could do, first of all, but more importantly, you just want to feel validated and heard. And if we can kind of just give them that awareness and expectation so that they're clear that, okay, I can do that, I can sit with you.
No longer a burden then.
Exactly.
There's an expectation set up. Yeah, that's a really smart idea. And then that way you don't feel like you have to take on the control around whether or not it is a burden. Because I simply asked, can you validate or can you listen? And then, if they do that.
As opposed to if I did have the expectation, here's my problem, fix it. That would be a
little
burden,
bit different.
Right? Then you would feel burdened, and my perception of you seeing me as burdensome would be accurate.
True.
So if I'm not really looking to you to solve my problem, but just hear me, support me, at the same time, though, I may want some ideas without the responsibility of solving the problem.
True.
Because either way, I still have to do something, even if you have the solution.
True. It's back on me.
It's back on me.
So maybe it's asking, are you in a place to validate me? Are you in a place to hear? Are you in a place to help me problem solve or, throw some ideas around on how you would navigate this, right?
Yeah.
Because that too, then if they give you permission to open up about those things, and again, it's no longer on you as far as burdening. Somebody says yes, but they're not in a place to hear it. Was that in my control?
Right.
I asked, I got that permission, I opened up that door. And I think to your point, you're always going to have to be the one to do something. So this idea of dumping on someone else, to me, really means I'm giving them the problem and I'm leaving. Right. When that's not really what's happening.
Because either way, you leave with the problem.
Exactly. So I know some people have said, well, now we're both in the same boat and I don't want to pull somebody else in that boat. So I understand that to a degree. But again, I think to your point, it's about the communication. Mm-hmm. How are we communicating with other people about our needs? And what is the expectation
from that? If you really don't want to be a burden to somebody else, then by giving them that clear understanding and expectation of what it is you're looking for and inviting them to say yes or no, kind of frees you of that.
Right.
Theoretically. You may still emotionally feel that sense of guilt or burden, but that's something that you're going to have to work through.
Right.
And the reality is, you're not dumping that on them with the expectation to fix it.
Right. If you communicate that.
Correct.
So I think that's really important. So if you're trying to work on not feeling like a burden, or you want to know what to do if you start feeling like that, try to keep in mind communicating and expressing expectations, and then getting permission from the person before you quote unquote dump or lay whatever it is out that's on your mind to that person, so that it's more of a mutual understanding around what this communication is going to look like, so I don't feel like I'm just leaving it on someone. Would be some tips.
Sounds like a good plan.
All right. Have a good week, guys.